Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? It is your average programmer here. And today I bring to you all a GPA Calculator application. We, and by we I mean me and you, are going to create a GPA calculator. And this is the best of both worlds for a computer science major in college. And the reason I say this is, for one, you have another resource to check your GPA. And for two, you basically get to utilize your programming skills, or you get to learn more about programming and how the pillars of object-oriented programming work. And I'm going to show you that in this coming video. So I hope you stay tuned because this is going to be an interesting one. Let's see how this application runs. Let's go ahead and run this before we get into coding it up. I want to show you that this actually works. Because what's the point of watching this video if the application doesn't work and you don't learn anything? So it prompts you for grades in different subjects. Now for this application, we're going to keep the subjects general. So we're going to have subjects that I'm sure you all have taken, such as math, science, literature, and some kind of computer class. And this is based on a 4.0 scale. I don't want to get into any specific classes such as discrete mathematics or other art classes. I want to keep them general. As you see here, it's going to prompt you for the letter grades in different classes. So we're going to type in our letter grades. In math, I'd say I'm decent. I'm going to put a C. In literature, not bad. In science, let's go C as well. In computer class, let's say I have an A as well in the random elective. As you can see here, my GPA is a 2.88. Now, let's try this with all A's, and we are going to get a 4.0. Say we get an A in every class. As you can see, this works, and I'm going to show you how this works in this coming video. So let's go ahead and not waste any time. I'm going to show you what this GPA calculator is based off of. Let me open up this browser here. And as you see here, I've got this this criteria that we're going to be basing this application on. It tells us that your grade point average is calculated by dividing the total amount of grade points earned by the total amount of credit hours attempted. Your grade point average may range from a 0 to a 4.0, and that's in the US. In other countries, it may be different. As you see here, if you get an A, you get 4 points. And we're going to do just A through F, no minuses or pluses. We're just going to do solid A's, solid B's, solid A through F's. For an A, you get 4 points for that subject. For a B, you get 3 points for that subject. C, you get 2 points. D, you get 1 point. F, you get no points. And here's a quick example here before we jump into Visual Studio. Or if you're using a different programming language, you can do that as well. This is not specific to C#. I'm going to be working with C# in this video. But again, you can code this in your own language. So for biology, it is worth 3 credit hours and we get a grade of A. So 3 credit hours times the points we get for that letter grade, which is 4, it's going to equal 12 grade points in total. For biology lab, 1 credit, B, which is worth 3 points. 1 times 3 is 3, so 3 total points, grade points. For English, 3 credit hours, we get a C, which is worth 2 points, so 3 times 2 is 6. And for math, 3, we get an F. Oh. And that is worth 0 points. Sorry, man. Sorry. So we've attempted a total of 10 hours. So 3 plus 1 plus 3 plus 3 equals 10 total hours attempted. Now the grade points we got for the grade that we got in the subject, we got a total of 21 grade points. So in order to calculate the GPA, we basically divide the total grade points by the credit hours attempted. So 21 divided by 10 is going to give us our GPA of 2.1. So that's how we are going to base our application off of. Let's go ahead and jump into Visual Studio. Let's create a new console application. Let's get this thing cracking. Let's go ahead and call it GPA Calc can call it anything. I'm just going to call mine GPA Calc. Oh, we've already got something called GPA Calc. Let's just call it GPA. And this is setting up. While this is setting up, I hope you all are having a great day, and please hit the like button and be sure to subscribe because I've got plenty more content coming soon. While we wait for this to load, let's go ahead and run it the first time because the first time it takes a while. Let's get that out of the way. Let's see a beautiful hello world pop up on our console application. Oops, my bad. Let's wait for this to load up. As I told you, it takes a while the first time around. So we're just going to get out of the way now. All right. Get our beautiful hello world. Now, let's get into this. So where are we going to start? In order to ask the user for input for each subject, we want to console.writeLine and ask for user input for each subject. So let's put that in a different function. Let's not clog our main function. Let's have all of those prompts in a separate function. And this is going to return type double, and you're going to see later on why it returns a double. All right, so in here we want to declare our subjects. Let's say int math, because let's say math is worth 4 points, 4 credit hours, sorry. We're gonna have literature, so that's worth 3 points. We are going to have science, we're gonna say that's worth 4 points. We're gonna have computer class, let's say that's worth 3 points. And this may not be correct, but that's what we're doing for our application. You can cater this to whatever or however you like. Random elective 3 credit hours. And we're going to declare our total points variable. It's going to be of type double. And again, I'll explain why this variable is here. I'm going to initialize it to 0. All right, so as I said, we are going to prompt the user, or as the function shows, we are going to prompt the user for input. Console.write. We are going to say, we're going to ask for their grade for math. We're going to go down this list here. We're going to ask the user for each grade that they got in each class. Enter your grade. Math. So we are going, you can ignore this squiggly line. The reason it's doing that is because we haven't returned anything. We said we're going to return a double, but we have not returned anything, and we are going to do that later on. All right, so now we want to declare a variable of type string, and we are going to call it math grade because we're going to store the grade that we get for math inside of this variable. The grade that the user types in that they get for math, we're going to store that in this variable. I'm just going to say console.readLine because we're going to read the user input. I'm going to do this for each subject. I usually don't like to copy and paste, but this is a bit tedious, so that's what I'm going to do. 3, 4, 5. All right. So we're just going to change the subjects. Literature. Change this to lit grade. We're going to change this to science. Science grade. Change this to computer class. And we're going to change this to comp grade. We're going to change this to random elective elective grade. All right. So again, here's what we're doing. We are prompting the user for input. In this case, we're going to ask the user to enter their grade for math. The user is going to type in a letter grade, which is A through F. We're going to store that letter grade inside of a variable. In this case, it's going to be math grade. We're going to do the same thing for literature. Prompt them for the grade that they got in literature. Store that variable in lit grade. Do the same thing for each. Prompt them, store it. Prompt them, store it. So now that we've got that out of the way, we need some way to calculate the points that they get for each grade. Because again, that's how you differentiate the GPAs. Because if this math class is worth 4 credit hours, and a student that gets an A in it and a student that gets an F in it, we have a student that gets an A in it and we have a student that gets an F in it, they're not going to have the same GPA because one student got an A, one student has an F. So in order to differentiate those GPAs, we are going to have to calculate the points for each letter grade, as I showed you in this. So if they get an A, they get 4 points for an A. If they get a B, 3 points, and so forth. So that's how we are going to do that, and we are going to do that in a separate function. Because again, we don't want to clog our functions, and we're learning how to pass an input through functions in this application as well. So I want to teach you certain things that you may not have used before and that may be new to you. If it's not new to you, this could be just a refresher for you. So we are going to create another function. Remember, it's going to be outside of this function. So we're going to create another function, static, and it's going to return a double as well. And I'll explain why. And I haven't explained why this doesn't return a double yet, but I'm going to do so. Just not yet. Calculate. I spelled that horribly wrong. Calculate points. And this is going to take in an argument of type string, which is going to be the user's grade that they pass in. And I'm going to explain how this works. Just give me a sec. And here we are going to declare a double called points. Let's call it grade points. We're going to initialize it to 0. So now we are going to create a switch statement. I usually use if-else statements, but for certain things like this where we've got different occasions, I like to use switch statements. We have a ton of different occasions where the user can pass in any letter grade from A through F. So grade to upper, and this to upper function just converts the user's input to an uppercase. So just in case the user types in a lowercase a, we still want to read it as an uppercase A. All right, here we are. Let me see what's going on. Is this an extra? All right. Nope, that's supposed to be there. All right, so here we are. Let's not worry about these squiggly lines for now. We are going to jump into our switch statement. So we're going to have different cases for the different letter grades that the user passes in. So we're going to say case A. So we're doing this on the grade. In case the user passes in an A, we want to run this statement, or we want to process this. Points plus equals 4.0. Grade points I meant to put. Plus equals 4.0, and we want to break out of this in this case. So once I have all the letters, I'm going to explain what this does. But for now, we are going to have the different cases for the different letters. Equals 3.0. Break. Case C. We want to have grade points plus equals here. This equals 2.0. Want to break case D plus equals 1.0 break case F points plus equals 0. And our default is going to be nothing. All right, here we go. This is supposed to be a 0. So what we're doing is we're basically taking in a string, which is going to be a letter grade. So A through F. We're taking in that letter grade. So if the user passes the letter grade in as a lowercase letter, all we're going to do is convert it to an upper. If it's already uppercase, then this function pretty much does nothing. It just leaves it as an uppercase letter. I mean, it still happens on the grade. It still processes it to an upper, but it doesn't make a difference, is what I'm saying. So what we do is basically pass in the grade, and we're going to do a switch statement. We're going to perform certain actions depending on the grade the user passes in. If the user passes in an A, we want to add 4 points to this grade points. We're just basically going to add 4 points to this grade points variable. Now this is the same way as writing this. There's no difference in those statements. It's just a shorter way of writing. The other way is a shorter way of writing this. Basically have 0 and we're adding 4.0 to 0. So let's go back to our original one. If the user passes in the letter B, we're going to add 3 points to the grade points variable. If the user passes in a C, we are going to pass in or add 2 points to the grade points variable. If the user passes in D, 1 point, F, 0 points. And the default, we do nothing. If the user passes in a letter that's not within A through F, then we don't want to do anything. And what we're going to do is return this grade points, because that's the total number of grade points the user gets for that subject. So we're just going to return grade points. Now we don't get any squiggly lines. Let me fix this. Much better. So now we don't get any squiggly lines for this function. Again, depending on what the user passes in, we want to add a certain number of points to this grade points, and we're going to return it for that certain letter grade, or for that certain subject. Now let's go back to this function up here where we prompted the user for grades. We've got this double total points variable, and what we want to do here is declare a double variable. We're going to call it math points in this case, because we're prompting the user for input for their math grade, and we are going to calculate how many points they get for that grade. We are going to call the calculate points function, and what we're going to do is pass in the math grade. I'm going to explain this to you in a sec, and after that, what we want to do is add that to the total points. So here's what we're doing. We are prompting the user for input. We are taking that input and storing it inside of a variable. So the user is going to pass in a letter A through F. We're storing it inside of a variable. And we are going to declare a new variable here. And the value that it's going to hold is the return statement from calling this function. So we're taking this variable here. We're passing it into the calculate points function. We're calling this function. We're passing the math grade in. And we're going to head to the math grade function, or the calculate points function. So again, it takes in a string, which is the grade. Again, we passed in the grade that the user typed in. Then what we're going to do is based on the grade that they pass in, we are going to add a certain number of points to this grade points, because that's the number of points they get for the grade that they passed in. So if they get a B, we pass in 3 points into this grade point and we return it. That's it. We return the grade points. So in this case, if the user gets a B, 3 is going to be added to grade points and 3 is going to be returned, because that's the number of points they got for that grade. And we're going to do this for each. And after that, we're going to have this total points variable. We're going to add the number of points that they get for the grade into the total points. So it's going to continue to accumulate points from the grade that you pass in. We're going to do this for each. I'm going to go over this one more time just so it's clear. And I'm not trying to be redundant, but I want you to have a deep understanding and a clear understanding of what's going on here. So in this case, we're going to have lit points. You can call it anything you like. We're going to call the calculate points function. We're going to pass in the lit grade that we get for the subject. I'm pass in the grade that we get for the subject. We're going to add it to total points because, again, we're continuously adding to that variable. Science, we're going to call it science points equals calculate points. We're going to pass in science grade. Points plus equals science points. We are going to say double comp points equals calculate points. We're going to pass in the grade that we get for the computer class, which is called comp grade. We're going to add those points to total points. And the last subject, and I know this is a bit tedious, but this gives you a nice understanding of how certain things work in programs. Random points equals calculate points. I'm going to pass in the random elective grade. All right, so we have this partially working. The reason I say partially is because, remember, as I told you, the number of points you get for the grade is multiplied by the credit hours. So if you get an A, 4.0 is multiplied by 3, which gives you 12 total grade points. If you have 3 credit hours, a class worth 3 credit hours, and you get a C, which is 2 in this case, 3 is multiplied by 2 and gives you 6 total grade points. So piggybacking off of that, we have the points that we get. So we pass in the grade, we call the calculate points, and we get a certain number of points for the grade. If we pass in an A, we get 4 points, and 4 points is returned, and 4 points is held in the science points variable. So we want to multiply that by the grade for this specific subject. So for science is worth 4 credit hours. So we multiply that by 4, or you can say by science, because in this case we're dealing with science class. We're going to do that for each subject. So times math times literature. I'm going to show you the control of this program in a sec after I do all this. Let's go ahead and jump down. Comp grade times, what is a variable? Computer class, and for random electives times elective. All right, Now what we want to do is return the total points that have accumulated for each subject. We want to take this total points variable. Hold on, this is acting very strange. Let's give it a sec to load up. Uh-oh. All right, we're back. So we want to return the total points that have accumulated from adding the total number of grade points that we got for each subject. All we want to do is return it. And now our squiggly line goes away. So we've now returned this double, because in the function header we said we're going to return a double. That's exactly what we've done down here. So let me show you how this works. We've got, one sec. Oh, what's going on? Let's give it a sec to load up. Not sure what's happening. All right, we are back. So let me zoom in a little bit here. We've declared our subjects, and those subjects hold values, which are the credit hours that they are worth. Math is worth 4 credit hours, and this might not be right, but we're just going by this. 4 credit hours, literature 3, science 4, and so forth. So for each subject, we are prompting the user for input. For math, we are saying enter your grade for math, and the input from this variable is stored inside this math grade. It's stored inside a variable. And now we declare a variable of type double, which is called math points. And for math points, we call this calculate points function. And we take the grade that the user pass in, and we pass it into the calculate points function. So now we jump into the calculate points function. So let's say the user passed in an A for math. We're going to jump into the calculate points function. We've passed in the math grade. So now here it takes a string, which is the grade, and based on the grade that they pass in, it's going to perform some action. So we said A. So for A, we want to take this grade points variable and we want to add 4 to it, because that's the number of points you get for an A in a subject. So we want to add 4 points to it, and we want to break out of this statement, the switch statement. So now what's left after the switch statement is a return statement. So we return the grade points, which again holds the value 4.0, because that's the grade we got. That's what happens when we get an A. We add 4 points to it. So now 4.0 is returned. So now this calculate points call holds 4.0. So 4.0 is multiplied by math, which holds the value 4 credit hours. So those 4 points that you got for getting an A in math is multiplied by the credit hours that math is worth, which is 4. So 4.0 times 4 is 16.0. So now for math points, it's worth 16 points. Now we have this total points variable here, which has the value 0. Now math points, which holds the value 16.0, is added to the total points. So now total points holds the value 16.0. And then we head to the next subject. We prompt the user, pass in a grade. We pass it into calculate points. Now this calculate points holds a certain value, and that value is multiplied by whatever the credit hours of that subject is worth. Literature, it's worth 3. So whatever value this function returns, it's multiplied by 3. And lit points holds that value. So again, remember, total points still has a value 16.0. And the value from lit points is added to total points. So we continuously do that for each subject. So total points continuously gets accumulated. It's accumulating the total number of points you get for each subject, depending on the grade again. And at the end, we return the total number of points that have accumulated over the course of prompting the user for input, passing in that input into the function, and multiplying by the credit hours, and so on and so forth. So that total points accumulation is returned. So now what do we want to do? We want to jump into our main function, because we've pretty much got the backbone of calculating our GPA. That's what all of this is for. These two functions are for. So let's head back up to our main function. And we are going to have an int, which is the total number of hours attempted. We're going to hard code this just because the video is long enough and I don't want to do any other way. So attempted hours variable equals, it's going to be the total of the number of hours you attempted. So 4 plus 3, 7 plus 4, 11 plus 3, 14 plus another 3 is 17. So you've attempted total 17 credit hours. So this holds the value 17. Now we've got a double called total number of points, num of credit points. This is going to hold the call to the function prompt grades. I hope this isn't too esoteric and I explained it well enough for you to understand. So again, it's going to call prompt grades. Prompt grades is going to prompt the user for all this input. And as I told you before, this happens where we pass in the grade into the function and it gets multiplied and total points gets accumulated and we return total points. So we're basically holding the total points value inside of this prompt grades function. That's all it is. It's holding the total number of points that you got for whatever grades you got in each subject. That's what this variable is. That's the only value it holds. So we want to have our GPA value of type double, and that's going to be, as I told you, GPA is the total credit points divided by the number of hours attempted. So here we are, we've got total number of credit points divided by attempted hours, which is 17. So we're going to say attempted hours. And that is pretty much it. All we're going to do now, console.writeLine, your GPA is, and we're going to have GPA. So let's test this out. Let's see if this works. We're going to pass in all A's the first time, and we should get a GPA of 4.0. Let's go ahead and run this. Enter your grade for math. It's prompting me for math. Again, we're going to pass in all A's. Enter your grade for literature, science, computer class, random elective, and we got 4. It's supposed to be 4.0. Let's see what I did wrong here. Is 4.0. Let me make sure I made them all doubles. Oh, here we go. We have to use format string and 2 and 2. Now we're going to get a 4.0. Let's rerun this function with all A's. It just rounds 2 decimal places after the decimal. So instead of 4, we're going to get 4.0. Let's go ahead and run this. Enter your grade for math. We're going to pass in all A's. There we go. 4.00 is our GPA for getting all A's, and that is correct. Now let's pass in some random letters. For math, as I told you, I am decent at math. Literature, let's say not too bad at literature. Science, let's give all A's for the rest of them. GPA is 3.35, which seems very reasonable. I'm not going to calculate this because it's going to make this video even longer, but you can do so based on the functions and the criteria that I have in my code. And again, this is the general idea of a GPA calculator. Congratulations to you. You just created your own GPA calculator. I'm going to run this one more time just because I think it's really cool. So you've got an F in math, an A in literature, B in science, D computer class, D in random elective. Your GPA is 1.8, which is not very good. So as you can see, this works. Again, congratulations to you for creating this GPA calculator. You can show off to your friends. You can add to your portfolio if you want to. You can do whatever you want with it. And again, as I said, you can cater these subjects to whatever classes you're taking now and whatever credit hours it's worth. So you can have discrete mathematics as one, which is worth about 3 or 4 points, I believe. And again, thank you all for watching this video. If you coded it along with me, thank you very much. If you did not, hopefully you rewatch this video again and decide to code along with it. If you like this video, hit the like button. And if you want to stay tuned for more content, because I've got plenty more content coming soon, please be sure to subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. Peace out, y'all.